Hello, everyone. Welcome to Screenwalks. My name is Marco Demutis, and I'm the digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland. If you're returning from last time, thanks. And if you're new, nice to have you. Screenwalks is a project created by Fotomuseum Winterthur and the Photographers Gallery. It's a fortnightly series of live streams with artists and researchers who take us on explorations of online spaces, allowing us to take a look at their practices from inside their screens. All of the artists and researchers in Screenwalks work with ideas that we find essential in advancing the discourse on the photographic and photography's changing role and properties. Aesthetics, politics, economies, and social issues around network images, post-photography, born digital assets, online visual cultures, and communities. Now here comes the instructions. The stream will last a little longer than an hour. Once the screen walk is over, Roc Herms would like to invite you all on a live stream guided tour. So stick with us after the walk is over. But this will take place right after the end of the walk, and you're all invited to join him on screenwalks.com. For those of you in Zoom, your microphones should be muted already. If not, go ahead and please mute them now. Please feel free to write messages in the public chat or send them privately to John or me if you have questions throughout the stream or at the end of the talk in the walk. The video is being recorded and will be archived. So please do not activate your camera if you don't want to be recorded. And on a side note, if you have missed a previous screen walk and would like to see what happened, or if you couldn't catch the epic 7+ hours performance online of Alan Butler last time, you'll find them all linked on screenwalks.com.
Hello all, my name is John Uriarte. I'm a curator of digital programs at the Photographers Gallery in London. In this time of strained physical interaction, digitized online communication and socialization has reached the closest peak to what many had previously theorized and fantasized about. From the techno-optimistic Silicon Valley entrepreneurs to the Hollywood dystopian movies, including also the cyber-feminist activists, the digitization of human society has been quite extensively speculated, but not so widely experienced. The previous closest examples to the new screen-mediated reality that we are living now might be found in online communities gathered around a particular activity, interest, or specificity, experimenting with the tools and spaces that everyday technology has been offering for years. Although, as we saw during our previous screenwalk with Alan Butler, gaming is the #1 industry of online interaction, virtual worlds have also had a deep cultural and social impact throughout the recent history. What started as text-based chat rooms as IRC in 1988 has evolved into avatar-based virtual reality spaces in places such as Mozilla Hubs. You don't have to drive the fastest or kill the most in a virtual world. There are no scores to reach or lifts to keep. You just have to hang around, experiment with your digital body, maybe build something if you are up to it, but it's mostly about meeting people. These spaces of socialization have seen a regular usage increase throughout the history, while developing into regional scenarios that allow complex relationships between their inhabitants, who are able to live through friendship, love, hatred, dependency, faith, solitude, labor, or fun, among many, many other human experiences. Although the virtual worlds usually mimic the visual surface of the physical world, the laws of those physics tend to be flexible. So flying, for instance, is a quite common ability, not only for birds. And the digital body, the avatar, tends to be totally or highly customizable. On the other hand, their time span is limited, as they require continuous maintenance and financial support. Although comparing the virtual and the physical worlds is useful to introduce this topic, there are a few questions that we find particularly interesting from the point of view of image and photographic culture. Firstly, there has been a continuous lament claiming the end of photography since the arrival of digital photography, the camera phones, and the internet that push forward terms such as post-photography. However, as we will see today, the ethnographic visual documentation is not dead, but on the contrary is still breathing on virtual worlds. What are the new possibilities that this enriched update of the traditional documentary photographic practice, bringing in new modes of representations of network communities, identities, and social exchanges, offer to the practitioners, their subjects, and the audience? And secondly, while video games have been pushing for photorealistic aesthetics in recent years, virtual worlds traditionally have been offering a much more flexible and creative and experimental visual realm. within a very diverse range of possibilities among them. They usually encourage their inhabitants to be, to move, to create, and to relate with others beyond the physical and cultural boundaries of the world. What is the impact that an extended and regular experiencing of life on virtual world has on its inhabitants, their relationships, and their creativity? Our screen walker tonight, Roc Herms, has been part of those communities since the 80s. Reaching the world top 10 of Magic the Gathering card games as a teenager, he's been also an avid gamer since. When he later started photographing, he mixed both interests documenting LAN parties and alternative electronic music festivals, which naturally led into screenshotted documentation of online communities. Roc Herms is a documentary photographer working on virtual worlds, whose project, Postcard from Home, is the most extensive and ambitious ethnographic research done about a digital online community, the PlayStation Home community, that we have found so far. Roc has generously invited us to a private view of his new anthropological online gallery devoted to virtual homes. He will show us around and introduce us to his work. And I want to remind you that once the Zoom stream is over, he will also take us into a guided tour around a number of virtual worlds that you will be able to watch and interact with on the screenworks.com. So that's all from my side. Roc, thank you for accepting our invitation, and the screen is yours.
Hi guys. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for not just inviting me to do this screen walk, but also to accept my invitation. So this is like a two-way invitation. And after your introduction, I don't know if I will be able to say much more, but what I will try to do is to give like or at least explain my experience or the lives that I've been living in my virtual homes somehow. And what we are gonna visit now, I think it's like some kind of archaeological ruins. It talks about my past, and it's not just about me, but how we as a society live in the digital realm. And I think that now we can leave my physical studio and we can move into the virtual world because I think that our avatars are already waiting for us. And let's go inside. So here we are. Those are the amazing avatars of John and Marco. It's pretty clear that both of them are digital curators. They look like twins somehow. And before starting the tour, guys, I think that if you are up to, I would like to take a selfie of the three of us, so we can. So we can. So we can have a nice that we will be able to remember like this amazing day. And also I was thinking to do some kind of wall, so every visitant who comes here can post like their pictures. Guys, you're not moving. I'm the one framing here. Vale, like this. Okay. Say cheese. Cheese.
Cheese.
Cheese. And now the 5-second printing. Here's the picture. And we are gonna post it. Well, this can be the wall, maybe. Okay. So afterwards, we will, the ruins are not open to the general public yet. But I hope that this weekend things will go public, and we will give you somehow the link to come inside this place, so you can also like explore it on your own. And if you come here, feel free to take a selfie of your avatar and just post it on this wall. Okay, and I'm gonna destroy this camera. So, are you ready?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start in here. As I was saying, I think that this is somehow like a recollection of the virtual lives that I've been living since I was a teenager somehow. And this ended up being a project called Podcasts from Home that we will talk afterwards. But when preparing this presentation, I was looking for the meaning of home. And I saw that home means a place where a group or a person lives and stays with their people, and where he feels calm and he feels security, and where he lives like parts of his life. And at the same time, when I was moving from one home to another, once that I changed, I moved from 2 different houses in Barcelona, I found an old videotape that I did record when I was studying multimedia. And in this record, it was an exercise where they asked me to document like one day with my family or one day at home. And this is the video that I did like 20 years ago.
Ara queda bé aquí.
Acaba.
Sí. Por favor.
No facis el tonto, tu menja normal.
That was a Sunday lunch with my family, my grandma, my small cousin.
Quiet, mira'm, però sèrio.
And they were not making any, they were not doing what I was asking to.
Avi.
Jo l'he menjat una cosa més d'allà.
Vale. Tu agrada el cotxe, vale?
This is my old avatar. And after spending like all day with my family, when I reached home, I went into my second home somehow. When I reached home, I was jumping into Quake 3 Arena, and nowadays, after 20 years, I realized that my life was like was starting to be split in two somehow. That I was spending a lot of time with my family in the physical world, but at the same time, we were spending a lot of time in a virtual environment. This is a picture of a LAN party. This is something. Sadly, I don't have a picture of us at the time, but mostly it looked like this. It was like pizza, sugar drinks, and it was a time when the internet was not working properly, and we had to meet together in a physical space, and we were connecting to each other. And what we were doing all weekend long was like chasing each other, and I didn't realize at the time, but we were starting to live inside a virtual environment. I mean, we were just like running and shooting at us and like chasing each other. But it was the first time that I was with my friends all together in a digital place. And I did not realize until maybe 15 or 16 years later that I realized that when this guy, the Yeti, when I met the Yeti, and the Yeti said, when I asked him, what do you like from this virtual world? He just said, man, this is real. And it was like, wow, this is real. We were really shading and we were really doing incredible things inside Quake or inside other video games. And this was a realization that I've been working on during that time. And as an introduction, I think that this is the idea that I think that I did work with the project, and this is the main idea that I want to project somehow. If you follow me to the next station, we will keep on seeing what was I doing when I was a teenager. And this huge statue, it's a statue of the amazing orc star. It is said that he was killed while trying to document a virtual wall, and now he became like a huge statue somehow. And well, when I was like 20 or as a teenager, I was not just doing LAN parties, but I found like other ways to go into another dimension somehow. And that the first way I found was reading books. I mean, through Tolkien books or through Game of Ender or through the books I was reading, I think that books are a way to, through imagination, go into another dimension and you are living an adventure inside another world. No, you cannot participate and you have to imagine everything, but I think it's a way to go into another dimension. At the same time, we find another media that, like books, allow you to go far away, and you can see that there's a graphical environment where you can see how this world looks like and how things happen. At the same time, we were also playing role-playing games. Role-playing games are basically, the book explains how the world is, and there are like a set of rules, and you are a character inside this world. And then there's one guy who we used to play with friends. There's one guy who is the master who takes control of the story, and then the other guys, each of them are like a character inside this story. And we were using those games to be a cowboy or trying to kill Luke Skywalker or like living inside this other reality. But the huge difference between books, movies, and role-playing games is that in role-playing games, you are the owner of your actions, that you are already deciding what you want to do. And depending on what you do, people do other things, and that there's life in there somehow. The next stage, I think, that I was also in at the time, were video games. And I think that video games are like a recollection of both of both medias that I was talking to. We were living inside Quake, like shooting each other, but at the same time, I was playing like solo games like Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid was like some kind of James Bond game where you were a spy and you had to get into a base and whatsoever. And nowadays, 20 years after, there was one sound when the guard found you. There was this sound, doing that. When I listen this sound nowadays, I still jump off the chair and my skin still, it's like shaking. And I think that there's nothing more real than this. That what this game was doing to my body and to my brain, it's still working, and I think it's more real than this. It's quite difficult. No. Another game I was playing was Zelda. Zelda. This is the Zelda of Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 was the first one that had like 3-dimensional graphics, and I still remember when I reached this area of the game that I felt like completely overwhelmed by the dimensions of this wall. that I could like discover many things, and that going from one place to another, it took me maybe 5 minutes, and it was like a new perspective inside the games that I was playing. I mean, there was an amazing world to discover somehow. But those were still like single player games. The things get more interesting when you can play and share with other people. And one big example of this is World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, it's it's called an MMO. It means multiplayer online game, and it's based on like the Lord of the Rings wall, and it's a place where you have your own character. Sometimes, well, not sometimes. Those characters have like jobs. You can be a healer, you can be a warrior, you can go hunting, and then you collect like leather, and you go back to base and you sell it to other people who will do. There's like a society inside this environment. Maybe there are thousands of people at the same time doing things together. And to reach the last stages of the game, people need to become groups, so then can organize and they can teamwork to kill the biggest monster of all. But there's a lot of not just community, but teamwork and socializing. World of Warcraft had like 12 million inhabitants, and there's a fact that since 2004, they played like 5.93 million years played with all the people who spent there all this amount of time. That surprisingly is the time that we as a species to go from hominid to sapiens. It's like 5.9 million years of time spent there. I actually have some friends who went into World of Warcraft too deep, and maybe they played for 5 years, and they almost had like 1 year inside this world. As a whole, we can see some places or some facts that make me see this as like some kind of replica or the physical world. As I told you, there are like different products and materials, and there's like some kind of stock market. The prices of the stuff, it fluctuates depending of the demand and the offer. And it's been seen, there are some studies that say that the better players of World of Warcraft can make like better employers than Harvard's like MBAs, that they are so good like playing with the stock market, or like team working, or that in the big universities are using like World of Warcraft to test things like this.
And I ask you where the source of this study is from.
The source?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I found it on the internet, and I think that at some point I would like to talk about how similar are screenshots and traditional photography, and I think that both of them, you know, that they can be true or not. But I think that it makes sense relating on what on my experience. I mean, there are other stories that happen inside World of Warcraft that make me see this environment as a living place. And one of them is this story of the corrupted blood incident, that it's very appropriate nowadays of the COVID. That was an incident that happened when there was a character in the game that when attacked the other people, he was infecting the population. But there was a bug, and this infection got spread through the wall, and people were not just dying, but moving from one city to the other, and they were not able to control that. And afterwards, there are some epidemiologists who tried to see the implications and how this infection got spread through the virtual wall as a reflection of what could happen in the physical world. It looks like we didn't learn anything, and now we are close at home, and maybe they don't get the proper resolution. But I think that this was quite interesting. There are also like other stories, like this one. This is a story about a funeral. This is there was a server in World of Warcraft. Usually there are like two big groups that they fight to each other, and one of the players of this group died on the physical world, and then on the internet they decided to meet at some point and time unarmed and to do like an offer or a funeral to commemorate this guy that was an active player and that he died in the physical world. No? The thing is that another group of people of that world decided to get into the funeral armed, and they started like to kill everyone. And this is the video that those guys made, and then they posted on the internet. Yeah. Go. Technology. No put them. Bueno, the video shows how there are a bunch of people doing this funeral, and suddenly the other guys appear and they decide like to kill everyone. And this caused a lot of in the community that there was a lot of conflict and debate about if this was ethical or not, and there were a lot of people thinking about this fact. I will try to fix this somehow afterwards, and hope that next time you come it can be visible. Another guy that became famous and actually he became like some kind of celebrity is this guy that he was in the game. He was called like Leroy Jenkins. As I told you, in World of Warcraft, you had to get like 40 people, each of them with the personal role, and they had to prepare a lot of stuff before entering an instance to do like some kind of mission, no? And this is a video they were recording before entering to this area, and they are like deciding and organizing, okay, you're going to do that, and you're going to do this, and and suddenly this guy decided to say, fuck off, and he just went in, and things went nuts, things went crazy.
Okay, guys, these eggs have given us a lot of trouble in the past.
One of the
does
things
anybody
is that
need
while you're
anything
playing,
off this guy, or can we
usually you're
bypass him?
always talking. So maybe
I think Leroy
if you're
needs something
traveling
from this
through
guy.
this wall, you keep talking
Oh,
with
he
with
needs
your
those devout
friends, and maybe
shoulders?
you talk about your
Isn't
week,
he
and that's a
paladin?
lot of socialization. It's not just like
Yeah, but that'll
killing.
help him heal better. He'll have more mana.
Christ. Okay, well, what we'll do, I'll run in first, gather up all the eggs so we can kind of just, blast them all down with AoE. I will use Intimidating Shout to kind of scatter them so we don't have to fight a whole bunch of them at once. When my shout's done, I'll need Anthony to come in and drop his shout too, so we can keep them scattered, not to fight too many. When his is done, Bass, of course, will need to run in and do the same thing. We're going to need Divine Intervention on our mages, so they can AE, so we can, of course, get them down fast, because we're bringing all these guys. I mean, we'll be in trouble if we don't take them down quick. I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
There are leaders, and there are usually
yeah, give me a
some,
sec.
like in soccer
I'm
teams,
coming up
that
with
some teams get the good
32.33
players from the
repeating
other
force
team, and
percentage
there's a lot
of survival.
politics too.
Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do.
All right, chums,
ready, guys?
let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
And this was the script, like,
Oh my God, he just ran in. Save him!
Oh, geez, stick to the plane.
Oh, Jesus. Let's go. Stick to the pledge, chums.
Stick to the plane.
Well, this
Oh,
was
gee. Oh,
a
fuck.
complete
Get my
disaster,
intervention.
and they got
Hurry
killed,
up.
and the internet then, they started like to make memes of this Leroy Jenkins, like going like a berserker, and just jump into into the stuff without waiting the other people. But this guy even became a card. There's Blizzard, that is the owner of this, the World of Warcraft, has a game that it's a card game, and they even made like figure status and cards, and so he became an internet celebrity. Well, a celebrity inside this world, inside the culture of this environment. Now we can jump into another wall. That this wall is called Minecraft. That Minecraft, it's not about like killing or destroying, but it's more about building. It's a sandbox game. This means that you start on an empty wall, and then you have the tools to build or construct whatever you like. It's a kind of Lego somehow. The thing with Minecraft, it has become the most played game in history, and nowadays there are 112 active million users inside this world. There are also servers where people can build their things, or there are like the single player. Those are like two small parts of a very interesting documentary, and in one of them we can hear the experience of a professor that uses Minecraft to teach, and also the experience of a young girl who says what she thinks, or what she thinks that Minecraft is for her.
Out of these different materials. Max is off and running, making some tools.
Guys, I'll make doors first. In the desert. Oh, I see it.
You got it.
Where?
See the pyramid? You guys like the game?
Yeah. It is really, really fun. Well, like, it's kind of like a free world. It's not like New York City, like with all the traffic and all the...
I'm able to dream up these different worlds and different adventures that the kids can have, that I think they're going to get something out of, that they're going to have, that's going to have some lasting value for them.
Well, Minecraft is basically another version of your life, except it's a magical version.
How?
And this girl, like the Yeti, said like one sentence that it's like another version of life, but more magical, that I can clearly see how our lives are like splitting in two, that we can live in the digital and we can live in the physical. And here there's a father and a son, and the father reflects about his son like playing Minecraft.
What?
Oh, nothing. You know, it's interesting because, you know, especially as a parent, you think, boy, I really need to, you know, limit. You just hear you have to limit his time. You have to limit their time in video games. You don't really know why, and I think that's just ridiculous now, because, you know, what is a video game anymore? You know, when he's been playing for a couple hours and I come in and I'm like, all right, Gabe, I think you need to take a break, and I look and, you know, he's built a functioning aqueduct. That's no joke. Like, he figured out how to get water from one place to another by building this contraption. It's like, I'm not going to tell you to stop.
This also reflects, I mean, what is a video game anymore? I think that we used to think about video games like something who we used to, not just to escape, but to like just for fun, or that it was something easy. That and I think that nowadays that the word game, maybe it's not a game anymore. It's a place where you can socialize, you can relate, you can build, you can be creative, you can fulfill like your needs. And this kid can learn about construction, can learn about physics, can learn. I think that they are getting more than games. There are some people, for example, that instead of building aqueducts, if you come with me, yeah, John got lost.
No.
Vale. In here, there's a group of people who decided to build the wall of Game of Thrones, and those are like thousands of players playing in the same server and building like block by block, like King's Landing, the wall, and I don't know the amount of time, hours, and that you have to pre-project this, and you have to design everything, that the amount of not just time invested, but creativity and teamwork and like collective effort, I think it's pretty amazing. And there's another project in Minecraft that now they don't just want to build a fantasy world, but they are trying to build planet Earth at the scale of 1:1. The Minecraft world can be as big as planet Earth. That means that if you want to go from Zurich to London by walk inside this wall, it will take, I don't know how many days it will take to go from one place to another. And they have already built like Chicago. They are making a copy of the physical world somehow. And this is also like mind-blowing. Some other people are not just focusing on how the world looked like, but they try to use those environments to think about society or how we relate as humans. And there's this server called Civicraft where they are doing like some kind of social experiments. And depending on the place you are living inside this wall, you can be in a communist state, or it can be libertarian, or it can be that there are different forms of societies. Some parts of the wall are like that there's anarchy, other parts are like the Wild West, other parts there's a king that decides what people has to do, and it's some kind of social experiment happening inside this virtual world. And because life is going in there, we can see like the best and the worst of human society. And one of the, maybe I've been focusing on the nice things, but there are also like not so nice things, like discovering that in some parts of this world, there's people who has slaves and they make them work. And there's some people also who want to play as a slave, and that there are like these relationships that happen in the physical world, and that also have a reflex on this virtual world. This is a short video of this.
This is our slave boy working in the field. He's a hard worker. He's a good worker.
Some time ago, there was also the story of a boy who was virtually raped inside Minecraft somehow.
Yeah, that's right.
And this also generates a lot of talking and debate on the community. And some players are banned, and well, there's all this stuff like going on. And
Santiago is asking if you can actually force someone to do things on Minecraft.
Not physically, but you can bully them. I mean, you can maybe you cannot physically like punish them, but you can well, like there's trolling and bullying online. I think that in this environment this can happen, and there can be people who end up feeling that they need to do this for this guy, because if not, he will do, I don't know, whatsoever on the internet about his name, or that I think that those things can happen. Yeah. Okay, and then I could go on with different stories like those that make me see like all those environments are living spaces. And also I did read like some books like this Reality is Broken by Jen McGonigal, that what she basically says is that the physical world doesn't motivate us like effectively, and that video games and virtual worlds are fulfilling like human basic needs, like the need to socialize, the need to create, the need to relate to each other, to be creative, and that we can find in those virtual environments places to fulfill those needs. And he also says that for example, nowadays there are like 3 billion hours played a week as a world, as a society. And the other point that I would like to point is that maybe I'm talking about video games and virtual worlds that can be far away from your interests, but all of us today, we are all living 7.5 hours in front of the screen. And I think that our screen is the biggest virtual wall of all. I mean, Facebook is a virtual wall, and how we socialize in WhatsApp and Instagram, and how we digitize our works. I think that maybe I'm focusing on the games and virtual worlds, but in a way, I think I'm talking about all of us, about how we are being like digitized and how we spend part of our lives inside those digital environments. And now I go into my own experience. When I was well, like living in Barcelona, my best friend Alex Abeboy is this guy you can see here on the phone. He went to live to Madrid, and when he went to live to Madrid on weekends, we spent a lot of time together, like playing Quake, playing Minecraft, playing, and while we were playing, we were not just killing, but we were, no sé, explaining each other how was our week, or what things, what problems we had. I mean, we were like socializing inside those environments. And at the same time, I discovered photography at the same time, more or less, and I realized that what I was doing as a teenager on Quake, that I was already at the time, without knowing, like taking pictures all game long. I was not capturing the image, but I was shooting rockets. But I had the option to move around, to look, to frame, and to shoot and capture what I was seeing, no? And this made me think about the possibility to start taking pictures of my friend Abeboy. And this was like the first set of pictures I did about me and Alex, my friend Alex. And here's Abeboy on Minecraft, here's Abeboy on World of Warcraft, here's Abeboy on Badlands, on Team Fortress, on Call of Duty. And what we were doing, instead of killing each other, I was with Alex while the other people was killing on the other plane. I was like, hey, Alex, come here, put here that I will frame and take. And I started to take a set of portraits of my friend Alex in the different worlds that we were living in. And things went crazy when we end up in a world called PlayStation Home that was not focused on killing a dragon or rescuing a princess, but it was focused on socialization. That there was no end screen. You just had to socialize with others. There were like 12 million people in there, like building their own apartments, doing their own things inside this place. This is a picture of both of us. I'm on the one on the left side, and Alex is the one on the right side. This was at the end of 2009, and I decided, well, we decided to go into this world on New Year's Eve. And on New Year's Eve, what we discovered is that it was full, it was crowded, it was full of people, like celebrating New Year's Eve inside this place, no? And this is Alex dancing on the main plaza. And there was one guy at the back saying, come on, guys, don't start 2010 like this. And here is where I realized that I was not just able to take pictures of my friend, but to use my photography to understand this world, to understand what was people doing in here, and to document the life of all these other avatars. And at this point, my friend stopped like being interesting, and I left him at his apartment, and it was like, okay, Alex, I'm just gonna walk around and I'm gonna try to document what people is doing inside this place. And this is a short video about me taking pictures inside this place.
We can have a good time, enjoying one another. This is the good life.
You have flash. You can change from first person to third person. And when you get into first person, you have the framing. You can, well, just frame and capture the screen. As in the physical world, you have to run, you have to, the things appear and disappear, and you have to be quick. And it's for me, it was very similar because as a photographer, I started taking pictures in the, like a street photographer. And for me, it was mostly the same, like walking around, moving, being quick, framing fast, and capturing what I was looking, right? And at the beginning,
sorry, Roc, just a question that maybe we could have right now before we move on. Real quick from David, if you consider that virtual reality referred as a place to socialize can be a conglomerate of the web, virtual reality, and video games.
Mm-hmm. The point, what I said before is that maybe we don't, that we see those virtual environments very far away from Facebook. And I think that they are, the basic points are very similar, not exactly the same, because the graphical interface or the wall, it's not a three-dimensional wall where you can move, but on Facebook you have your home, that is your wall. You jump from one home to another, you send messages to people, you can, I think that there are a lot of similarities, and that in essence, I think they are mostly the same.
And then going back to this idea of screen shooting, the relationship between screen shooting and street photography, Victoria was asking if the rest of the people on these worlds, are they able to see that you are holding a camera, that you are taking pictures? Are they aware that you are taking photos?
Yes, they don't see my camera, but there's this haciendo fotos. This in Spanish means taking pictures. So there's a sign, and at the same time, at some point, I started asking people if I could take them a picture, and there were a lot of people saying, "No, go away! What are you doing? No sé qué." And this was like the first interactions when I started not just to take pictures of what I was seeing, but to start document my relation with people. There were a lot of people that they were not allowing me to take pictures.
So people was also bothered is also bothered on online or digital spaces where someone is taking a picture from their avatar without giving permission, mostly.
Yeah, somehow, yes. And also maybe because I was getting into their conversation and stopping them if they were talking, and I was like, "Hey, hi, I'm Roc, I'm a photographer, can I?" And some of them were, "Okay, run away." But suddenly I found like one guy, this was the first guy that say, "Okay, if you want," no, the Playboy X. And I asked him, "Can I take your pictures?" And he said, "Okay, let's go. Let's go for a photo walk." And then we found like a nice spot, and I told him to put there, and I did frame him, and I took a portrait of him. And well, we just like been talking, and I told him that I was a photographer in real life. That at this point I still set the real life when what I'm trying to say nowadays is that the physical and the digital are both as real as each other. So, but well, I told him that I was a photographer, and he thought that I had a good life because I was a photographer. That this can be, we can talk about that. But well, I was just presenting myself as a documentary photographer to people I was meeting inside this place. One of the things that made the project grow a lot is that I was able to photograph words. That this is something that we will never able to do in the physical world. And when I was like a street photographer in there, I felt that one of the most interesting things to photograph was when someone was saying, "Hey, I love you," then I shut the shutter. Those are some of the street photographer images, and in some of them, in the right side, there's those group of guys like bullying the other one, saying "bitch, bitch, bitch, bitch." and those girl on the left side is asking for a picture to this guy. He says, "Send me a photo of yourself." And as a photographer, being able to walk on the street and take pictures of what people were saying was like boom, like mind blowing somehow. And at the same time, it made me think about documenting the conversations I was having with the inhabitants of this world. So I was able to take a picture when I asked something, and I was able to take a picture when they were replying. And then I started to build like some kind of graphical interviews with all the characters that I met. The project, if we go to the next stage, well, all the project happened in here in my sofa. So I didn't, it was very comfy, and I did not move that much. So all the stories that you will see, all of them happened from my sofa. And
how long did it take? How long did you stay on your sofa developing the project that was built?
That's a long time exposure. Photo 3 years.
I mean, I've been at the beginning, maybe I was like 1 year, like just like wandering around and taking picture of I was seeing. But then I started to get into the community through internet forums, and to discover like interesting characters that I thought that they were that I need them to interview. And then I sent them emails, and we met in the virtual space, and I started to do like a lot of research. And it was not that I was going into this place like every day, but maybe I was going when there was a celebration of something special, or when that. So, and the project ended up like it took me like 5 years of work, and then we had to design the book. This project became a book. If you come with me, this is the book.
First, just one question. So while you were going deeper on these people who was living or spending a lot of time in this space, your way of working, of documenting their lives also evolved, no? That's what I understood, that you started with screenshots, like some sort of like a street walk, street photography way of working. And once you were in contact, in touch with them, and you have like a much more confident relationship, you started to stage some of those photos and to like ask them to pose, or?
Yeah, well, not really stage, because it was like if we could talk here while we were talking, I was like framing and trying to capture every sentence that appeared on that conversation. I mean, I had to text and move the camera and photograph my sentence, and then to frame him and photograph what he was saying. And then at some point, maybe there were like some portraits that I tell him, okay, like we said before, no, come here to these huge columns because I like this point of view. And yes, at some point there were like some pictures staged, but mostly it was the work was about contacting people, usually through email, and asking, presenting me as a photographer that I was documenting this wall, and that if when can we meet, what day would you like to come to my, and then doing like this interview, and things got also out from this wall. I have also content from the forums or the community, or there's also a story about how Sony was hacked, and it talks. It's not just about this wall, but it talks about those digital environments somehow. The starting point is PlayStation Home, but it goes further, I think. Vale, the book. I think this needed to become a physical book, because as you see in here, all those conversations took the graphic novel look, because I had a single pictures for each of the sentences, and I thought that it would be, it's a reading book. It's a book where the introduction is my history, but then there are like many different characters, and I present them through the conversation I had inside this place. So the book ends up like being, it looks like a graphic novel, but I think that graphic novels or photo novels, you draw, you write, and then you mix all together. And this is not, this was the image and the text come at the same time. I mean, it was a picture of a precise moment of time that well, for me, this is important. Maybe it's not so relevant, but I think that it's more real in a way. It's not based on true facts. It's a conversation with a human being that was maybe in the United States in his sofa, but we were like socializing somehow. And here, if we go inside, we can see like some of the characters that I met during those years. One of them is Dark Granny. Dark Granny is this woman. He just wanted to send me the picture of her avatar from 40 years ago, and she's an old woman that she lives in Hawaii, and she was telling me that she lives in a very small town where she had not many people to socialize with, and that she found by accident this wall while his grandson was playing whatever game on the PlayStation. And then he found in this place a way to socialize with other people, to discover new things, and also to write for a magazine, and to play with avatars and identity. She comes from she's a sociologist. Sociologist, yes. And she was very interested in how in those walls you can create like your own persona. And actually, she had like 15 different characters, and all of them had their own apartment. And I met all of them, and I did like a set of portraits of each of her like personas. And one day she was a rapper, and she was like singing all day long. And she also wrote me like a small description of every one of those characters. She also had like a millionaire that was a millionaire playboy who owns a mansion that borders on the obscene. Her mind was pretty amazing. That this woman was incredible. At some point, I decided to make her a text interview, because when we were talking, she was pointing out too many different ideas that I was also thinking while traveling inside those places, about gender identity, about the singularity or the future where we are heading to. And well, she was a very interesting woman. As I told you, she was writing for a magazine that you have on your back. And this was a magazine that it was produced, all the contents were about this wall. And that was a group of people who decided to spend their time, energy, and money in writing about the culture of this wall. And they were publishing every month one of those magazines. All the topics were related to this wall. And the subjects were not as easy as, okay, this new space will appear. They were writing about the gay community of home. They were writing about religion. They were, the content was pretty interesting. We can also see that they had like advertising, and as a reflection of the physical wall, we can also see in here like the capitalist way of life, where you can get like different kind of clothes, and you pay with real dollars or physical money, and you can buy many furniture for your home or for your apartment. This was the guy, the editor-in-chief, and he said that has been widely beyond anything we expected. There's quite an appetite for what we are providing. So that there was, people interested about reading about the culture of this environment, about this world. Another character I met is this woman. Hey, amigos, come on.
Coming.
Come on, the museum shuts down in 15 minutes, I think. This girl, she's called Joanna d'Arc, and this girl was interested in all this stuff that I was showing before. She was very interested in fashion, and she found in this environment a place to fulfill like her need to express herself through the things that she was like wearing. And she had like their own like cameras and flashes, and she was doing like not just wearing their her avatars, but taking pictures, doing like fashion photo shoots inside this wall. And those are like this is the day I went to see her after writing her by mail and tal. We finally met in his mansion in front of the sea. And she told me that she was doing like 4 photo shots a week, depending on content and motivation. And one of the things that also was mind-blowing for me is that she was 2 persons at the time. She had 2 PlayStations and 2 TVs, and with one of them was controlling the model, and with one of them was the photographer, and she was putting the avatar, the model where she liked to, and then she was framing with her camera. And then she ended up doing like this kind of fashion pictures. And they were sharing these pictures into the community forums, and there were like hundreds of girls interested in fashion. And I think it's pretty amazing that maybe a girl, she was from the United States, and in the physical world, it was impossible for her to have this camera, these landscapes, this amount of clothes. I think that at some point, the virtual world can offer us a lot of materials that maybe physically are difficult to reach. But this is the day we met, and this is her stage at home with the 2 PlayStations, and then she processed the pictures with Photoshop, and she had a Flickr account with thousands of pictures. And last week that I came in again to see what she was doing, now she's on Final Fantasy doing photo shoots with whatsoever, and she keeps like pushing this interest. We can move to the next stage. The next stage are those crazy guys. They are bald or black. Well, this is me actually. And this is a group of people. They are called the homelings. And the homelings, they were at the time, they were like 900 or something like this. And they decided like to create like their own cult or their own society. And they had like a platform of, there was a leader, they had like their own outfits. They were like doing art shows and poetry readings and parties, and it's like they build like their own culture somehow. And they, at the end, they were like a group of friends, but there were like some, not just statements, but the organization of the group, and it was pretty crazy. And I reached them, I met them on the internet, and what I did was I sent them an email, and I tell them, "Dear ancient elder, it's a pleasure to hear your wisely word. I'm so nervous about our first meeting." Okay, I just text them and told him that I wanted to be part of this group, and he accepted. And what they did like some kind of baptism. They bring me into one place, and they started to read me the rules and the history of the group. And after this kind of baptism, they decided to do a party on my own. Well, first they sent me like this PDF. This PDF is the new link because well, they are the homelings and the newling is the ones who just like arrive, and they send you like this PDF that explains the rules, the history, what you're gonna do, and well, they had all this like not merchandising but in internal documents. And the first day they prepared like a newling party for me. The 25th of October, we gather in one of those spaces, and it was well, full of homelings, like celebrating my new coming to this world. And at some point they decided to go for a dramatic walk. The dramatic walk is like some kind of performance they usually do inside this wall. It's something we could do here actually. A dramatic walk, it's like just grouping a lot of people and walking like very slowly, like dramatically walking. But the impression was pretty crazy because look, they were like, we went for a dramatic walk and there was this group of white guys bald in this sunset, and well, we started to walk dramatically to the rocks, and we went into the rock, and then they start dancing and talking, and they just bring out their bubble machines, craziness. This is like the uniforms. The depending on the rank you have, you can wear some things, you can wear some others. One of the things I did, for example, then they allowed me to go into their forums, because not everything happens inside the virtual world, but also happens in the web somehow. And when I went into the forums, I discovered that they had like a place to store all the pictures that they were doing. And I did a selection of photos of them, and I asked the photographer to write about this image. And for example, this guy was saying that this was his first speech as a homeling commander, and that he remembers every speech on a simulation. So the idea was to not just work with my images, but also use other like homeling images to explain the collective. Well, in the book, there's also an art show they made. There's, well,
I was gonna say that you, in fact, are a homeling, no? You passed the whole process, and you even had an exhibition, no, with them?
Yeah, they made like an art show. This is my homeling avatar, and they decided to make an art show. So they got like a private place, and we were able to hang on the wall like different artworks, and there were people showing their watercolors, and there were people showing their glitch art, and some others I was showing my own pictures of, and they made an opening, and we met there, and they were talking, and
While people in the chat are discussing whether the homelings are more on the Daft Punk or the Kraftwerk side of things, Alan is asking if you see your practice as anthropological as much as photographic.
I think it's both of them. I mean, for me, it's photographically for the simple fact that every of the images that I generated was through a process of moving around, framing, and capturing. And it was in a living world where things appear and disappear. So all the images were a result of my decisions of point of view and framing. So for me, this is a photography project. And I think it's anthropological in a way that I'm not shooting like robots, that behind every one of these avatars, there's a human being that has a story that, well, that all of the stories that you can find in the book are a part of someone's life. And also it can talk about how as a society we are living part of our lives inside these walls, and maybe in the future we will see this work and we will say, wow, in 2000, look what we were doing, when nowadays we can blink the eyes and jump from one place to another, you can say. So yeah, I think it is. Also, there's another fact that we will see at the end of the ruins, that it's a ruin on its own. The fact that maybe we can just jump to it right now is that on 2015, Sony decided to shut down this wall because this wall was for PlayStation 3, and when PlayStation 4 came out, this platform was not like giving profit, and at some point they decided to shut down this wall and to erase like everything that had happened in here. And this is the last day that there were a lot of people like celebrating the end of the wall. And this is at some point there's like the last frame of the wall as this is the last image that of his life. And then we got this network error and everything is gone and everything is away, and we will not be able to ever get inside this place. So I think that this book in a way can be like a backup somehow of the lives that people were having in here.
I think this actually is connecting quite nicely to one of the questions that came before from Yuan about how to ensure the safety of files if data is stored in virtual world or the cloud.
As we will see afterwards, there are some virtual walls that when the company was gonna shut it down, the last inhabitants of this wall asked or they prayed for them to give them the code. And there are some really old virtual walls who are still running because the community managed to buy his own server and keep this wall alive somehow. But there are other on the internet, for example, that there's this example of GeoCities, that this was a huge community back in the 2000s or 90s where they allowed people to create their own websites, and it became like a huge city of millions of inhabitants. And when the .com happened with MySpace and Facebook, all the people moved from this place, and Yahoo decided to shut it down and delete everything. And I think that deleting something that has been built by human beings it's not so smart. That it's not. I think it's interesting to have like a backup somehow to study it in the future, or it's a part of human history, I think.
And some of the communities that, I mean, the wall has died, but some of these communities still are like in touch or in contact, no? Some of the friendships and all the... Like...
Yeah. In the book, at the end, I asked the people, the homelings actually, I asked them, and what will you do when this wall disappears? And he's like, oh, what will we do? And then I go to an old virtual wall, and I met one guy there. This is a virtual wall that we will go into afterwards. I don't know if we will meet someone today, but what he was telling me is, I was asking him, what will happen when this disappears? And he was like, okay, I will be really sad, but the people I met and the friendships that I made in here, that they will last forever. I am still in contact with them, and if this wall disappears, we will be texting us in another place, or the experiences will like stay with us, and the people you met will also stay with us somehow.
There was also a bit of a discussion that often comes up when we talk about screenshots, and there's also somebody sending lots of messages now to you. But there was a discussion about about screenshotting, in-game photography, and all this problem with appropriating images in terms of copyrights and whatnot. And I remember you told me a story about like being approached by some Sony developers after you released your project, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was quite interesting in connection to this idea.
Yeah, I was pretty scared because I was like producing like material, and I was designing the book, and the book had like already like 300 and something pages, and I didn't know how Sony would react to my book, that maybe they don't see what I see in this book, and they are, oh, you are using our images. There could be like some copyright problem somehow. But I think that, I mean, I had no trouble at all. And I think that I was doing like a great cause for his wall, like generating a document of his. And actually when Sony, there was an exhibition in Barcelona, and then they discovered this book, and they wrote me and they said, wow, and they bought some copies, and they were really, they appreciated that I did this. I think that if you create a wall and suddenly a wall without any objectives, and suddenly one of the inhabitants of this wall creates something meaningful, I think that you should be proud. It's one of the great things about those places.
Okay, so
yes, there was the last story we had here. If we understood like the homelings as a religion, there's also the traditional religion. This is a church from the United States that on Sunday they meet here and they pray and they do
I'm telling you, this is what turns so many people off against Christianity. Is they don't see
maybe
the
nowadays
mercy
with the
that
COVID
Jesus had.
that they were doing like clandestine church things, this would be like a nice place to come. So there are many reflections from the physical world somehow, and those are some of the stories that the book has. I don't know if I didn't saw the questions on the chat, so.
Yeah, no, I think that we replied to most of them. There was someone at the very beginning asking what did you use to build this archaeological online gallery?
Okay.
Maybe you
yes.
decide that.
This is called Mozilla Hubs, and actually the idea behind this place, you can experience this place with virtual reality. You can come in with your headset. And you can look around and move around, and it's thought to do like some kind of presentations. You can decide the wall or the stage you want to create, and what you can do in here is to add like images, GIFs, videos. You can upload like your own stuff on video. Maybe this is too much on GIF. And then you can upload things from here or put like URLs, or you can just like select some of the stuff here, and then you can move them around. You can rotate. If you are the boss, you can fly.
You can only do a dramatic walk.
A dramatic walk. So yeah, this is a place to gather with people and to present, or you can also, because we are using Zoom now, but here you can like have a conversation and many different things. It's called Mozilla Hubs. It's free. You don't need any to install any software, and I will give you the link to this place, so you can come and check as you like. I did the exit through the gift shop. This is not playing, but and if you don't mind, I will share the link of if you are more interested on the book. So you can take a look.
Maybe I have one question before we wrap up. I was interested in, of course, we're gonna end the walk and see your guided tour throughout the many other virtual worlds that you have prepared for us. But I was wondering if currently you see any other platform like, Fortnite or any other community that is being established, and is there anything specific that is happening right now with other virtual worlds or for social exchange? And
yeah, I think there are many that are like still strong, like World of Warcraft, like Minecraft, like maybe the Fortnite, that are shooters. It's not a place so it's not so easy to generate like meaningful things. I mean, I was socializing with my friends in Quake, but I mean, in Quake we were like just like having fun somehow. It's not a place where you can like do like meaningful and creative things somehow. And I actually think that the biggest and more important virtual wall is still Facebook. I mean, it's a two-dimensional environment, but it's a place where people live and socialize and get happy and get angry and get maybe there will still be an option for three-dimensional places that resemble the physical world somehow, where a place where you can move and that you have to walk, and this will keep on going. And now with the VR headsets, that the experience is even like more immersive. That I think it's that those walls will they like appear, they grow, they die because another one. It's like some constant flux, and yeah, that there will be we will see some afterwards.
Great, and you will be there to document it.
Bueno, we'll see.
Okay, I think the gift shop is a nice place to wrap up, and also to thank you so much for no doubt the best VIP preview I've ever had. And I look forward to the grand opening of the online gallery. And unless anyone has any other questions, then I think that we could end the Zoom here, and maybe you're gonna take a little break of 10 minutes or so before we jump into your guided tour. We're all gonna check it on screenworks.com.
Yeah, just if you want to go with Roc, jumping from one virtual world to another one and looking like doing this touristic guide through a few different virtual worlds, that it's gonna be like also like kind of historically organized touristic guide through virtual worlds. Just stay on the stream. He will be doing this, as Marco said, like in 10 minutes or so. So
yeah, we're gonna open the chat in Twitch as well. So if you have a Twitch account, want to interact with him directly, you can use that. And of course, we thank you all for coming.
Remember you that we will have the next Steam Walk in 2 weeks with Joanna Moll on Wednesday, May the 20th at the same time. It's also a Wednesday, so we will be looking
check out some Tinder, dark side of dating profiles and dating apps.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoyed it. And let's see what Roc does
afterwards. What time is it now?